Hola, and welcome back to the Dr. Rose BioHealth podcast. I'm Dr. Laura, dentist here at Dr. Rose BioHealth Clinic. I'm a biological and cosmetic dentist, and I also take care of our little patients, and I will be your host today. Before I introduce my guest, I would like to remind you that you can send us a message in all our social media platforms at Dr. Rose BioHealth if you have any questions from the podcast. In today's episode, I have a very special guest. She's Lidia Barbacil. She's a DHA licensed psychologist. She's from Spain and she has 11 years of experience treating children and adults. She's working in Kids First, treating kids, and in Maison Santé in a clinic very much aligned with our values at Dr. Rose BioHealth. And she's also a very good friend of mine, so I had to ask her to share all her knowledge with us today, talking about a hot topic, sugar addiction. Welcome, Lydia. Thank you so much for being today with us.
Thanks for inviting me. My pleasure.
So let's start from the beginning. Is sugar addiction real? Is it a thing? Is there any science behind it?
Yes, it is. So, of course, we don't have much studies around that because it's a topic that is quite new for us. But all the studies that we can find suggest that sugar is addictive. So they release an amount of dopamine on the body and the brain that is comparable with the ones that we find by drugs. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's much addictive that we think.
Okay, I was going to ask you that. So you think it's comparable to a drug addiction? Is it the same or worse or better?
Well, it's different because we cannot avoid it completely. So sugar is on our diet. Even if you really eat clean or clean as you can find sugar in fruits, you can find sugar in vegetables. But the new added sugar, the table sugar, is much more powerful. So this amount of sugar relieves some dopamine levels in our system that are comparable with cocaine or other drugs that are much powerful. What we know and we are aware of the beside and side effects of these kind of drugs.
Mm-hmm. And also, I guess because it's present and it's kind of culturally seen as a good thing, as a thing that we used to celebrate, and that it's everywhere. It's not that you have to hide to eat it. I guess it's probably why it's easier to get addicted to it.
Exactly. So it's a whole culture behind the sugar. So we learn in a very young age that sugar is a rewarding. When I was a little child, my mother always said, if you finish your vegetables or if you finish your soup, you will get something sweet. If you have birthday or party, you have a cake. If you go to, in summer, you go on holidays and you have ice cream, everything related to sugar is kind of a rewarding when you're a kid. So you learn that if you want to reward yourself or you're doing something and you feel bad, you can have something sweet to feel better or to reward yourself for a hard work. So it's very difficult to get out of this vicious circle,
And this brings me to my next question, because I recently posted on my social media that I have a daughter, she's 1.5, and I don't plan to give her sugar on a daily basis. I just want to keep it for like special occasions, things like that. And someone told me that I'm kind of depriving her of happiness. So I want to ask you, does sugar give us happiness? Is it true?
No. So sugar gives us dopamine, and dopamine is the hormone for pleasure. So dopamine and sugar give us a quick pleasure, something that is easy, that is fast, and that we can enjoy. But it's not happiness. Actually, the happiness that we feel is through other hormone named oxytocin. So oxytocin is like the happy hormone, the hormone that you release when you're hugging your baby, when you are with your partner, when you're laughing with your family. And it's also the love hormone because you need this hormone just to give birth. So, and you release this hormone when you are in love, this kind of a butterflies in your stomach. That's oxytocin. So, it is sugar happiness? No, definitely no. It's a pleasure, but it's not happiness. Happiness is the social connections. That's happiness.
That's very interesting, actually. So, do you think that we are, because we're in a society that is kind of getting a little bit disconnected, like we're connected to our phones, but maybe not as much in person. Do you think we're replacing these social connections with like sugar or other forms of this dopamine that you're mentioning, kind of pleasure instead of happiness?
Yeah, I think nowadays more than ever, and especially since COVID hit. So I think we are replacing our oxytocin sources from this quick dopamine pleasure sources. So we start to isolate ourselves a little bit more. So we need this dopamine. Then we go to social media, to video games, to do more digital connections. And we forget to have the face-to-face, the in-person connections. And only through this touching, this hugging, this feel the love, we will get the oxytocin. And all the other things will be this dopamine, this quick little pleasure. And the problem is they don't last really long. So you can do these connections digitally. And after that, you are at home alone. So you are bored or you think, oh, I deserve it. I work like too many hours on a computer or whatever. So it's easy to go into the kitchen and grab for something sweet that make me feel good, but it won't be like not really long lasting. So after that, you feel really
2
down.
minutes after is like, okay, we're back to square zero, and I feel even worse because I had this that I didn't want to have.
Exactly.
I think we all can relate with that. When after we have a long day, we're kind of, I'm just gonna grab a cookie and feel better.
Exactly.
And maybe we feel good in that right moment, but afterwards it's like, I kind of regret that I did that.
Exactly. That never happened with a hug with your child, right?
No, that never happens. That never happens. And that is so true. When you hug with your partner or with your baby, you feel this happiness. You know, it's amazing. And I remember even when I was going to classes after giving birth, I was going to some exercise classes where you were wearing your baby in a
carrier or
in a
something,
carrier,
yeah.
and they were telling me this is going to help you to produce more milk because of the oxytocin that you're releasing with having the baby, first of all with exercise, and then with having your baby so close by, and it was amazing, to be honest.
Sure.
So now that we know how addiction works, how can we fight this addiction? Do we have any tips of how we can fight it?
Yes, we can do a couple of things about it. First, I don't want to say that dopamine is evil or something like this. We need dopamine, but there is different resources that you can get this dopamine done. One of them is more healthy than the other. So you can go for a sugar rush. You can go for, I don't know, to play a video game like 5 hours, and you will get this quick feeling of dopamine. But you have other resources, other source of the dopamine that it will be much healthier, like sports, for example. So at the beginning, it's kind of hard. But when you are in movement and you are feeling the sensation of, especially if it's in a group and it's something social, so you will have the feeling that you're feeling better, you have more energy, and it's not happy, but it's looking like happiness. You're feeling really good. So these sources of dopamine are much better. Also, hanging out with friends, you don't have to do the hug or to have the oxytocin, just to laugh, just to be a little bit silly, then you will have the dopamine doses that you need. And in the other hand, you can have also some take-care treatments, for example. So if you just relax, take a bath, put a mask on your face, that's all the sources of dopamine that will help. So one of the advice that I always give to my clients when they want to reduce the sugar, because we cannot avoid it completely, is to say, okay, if in the days that you want to reward yourself, then look for sources of dopamine that are much healthier. And then if you do that for 4 days a week and you have 1 or 2 days that you go for sugar, it is okay. We can need a balance. But in the other days, you can go for a bath, you can go for a walk, you can do other things, you can call a friend. So it hasn't to be always the sugar or the social media and
So
so
it
on.
could be connection with others or connection with yourself. Let's
Yes.
say like self-care, because obviously imagine that you're at home with a baby and you can't go out. You can always do something at home for yourself that is not watching Netflix or being on your phone. So trying to connect with yourself, even maybe doing some mindfulness could be
Yes.
seen as some form of dopamine, or meditation, something like that, you think?
Yes, it can be. So it's depend if you are grabbing sugar just to relax yourself. So if you say, "Oh, I'm so stressed out, I need a cookie or whatever," then that will be the moment that you say, "No, what you need is just take it easy, do something more relaxing, take a bath, do mindfulness, do some meditation." That will be fine. In the case that you have like a really stressed day, or the baby is really crying or whatever, and you say, "Oh, I just want to sit down and eat that," it's because it's rewarding. I did such a hard work that I want to
I deserve
give me a
this.
exactly. I deserve something sweet. At that days, I will go more for the, put a mask on, or put even makeup if you're at home. It's like feel beautiful and feel confident, and all of that will release the dopamine that you need. Or do a medi-pedi or whatever. So something that you really can enjoy without the sugar.
Yeah, especially here in Dubai, it's so easy to
It's easy,
get
right?
someone to go to your house and do anything,
Yeah, and feel relaxed and feel good.
Very good.
And then you have the energy to go for the next phase.
So it's basically to change one reward for another reward. So instead of going and grab the sugar, try to find out that works for you, that you like, that you enjoy, and that you feel that you're rewarding yourself and not punishing yourself.
Exactly.
What you were mentioning before about the exercise, it works really well for me. It's always really hard to start because you're like lazy and you don't want to go.
Exactly.
But then afterwards, you're like, I feel like on top of the world, like I could take on the world. But yeah, I really agree with that. So if there's only one idea that you would like our listeners to grab from this podcast, what would that be?
So I will say, don't go for the quick thing that doesn't last long. Go for other sources of dopamine that it will keep your body healthy, and you can enjoy it longer, for sure.
Very good. Thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge with us and all your tips. It was very insightful. And thank you so much for our listeners to tune in with us again for another episode. And we will see you on the next one. Remember to feel good and smile.